The story you're about to hear today is exactly like that. One of those events that shouldn't exist but somehow does. And maybe that's why it unsettles so many people. Because when we mention Chernobyl, most folks think only about the past, the disaster, the tragedy. But very few imagine that decades later, something even stranger is still unfolding there. And perhaps the most disturbing part is realizing that nature didn't just survive the radiation. It changed. It shifted in ways so deep, so unexpected, that even the most seasoned scientists were left without answers. Animals that should have vanished began showing unlikely behaviors. Others appeared with deformities that defied logic. And among all these anomalies, one phenomenon drew worldwide attention. Dogs that mysteriously began developing blue fur. That's right, blue dogs, roaming in the shadows of the exclusion zone as if marked by something no one dares to explain openly. And the big question is, what is truly happening there? Why are these animals changing in such unpredictable ways? And more importantly, what does this mean for the future of the region and for our own future? Ever noticed how certain tragedies reshape the fate of entire places? Chernobyl is exactly that kind of landmark, an open scar in human history. When that reactor exploded in 1986, the entire world watched without fully understanding the scale of what was happening. The radiation spread like an invisible enemy, silent and relentless. But interestingly, while cities emptied and families fled for survival, nature remained staring back at the chaos. It's as if the environment itself was forced to learn how to breathe again. Even with contaminated air for years, many believed nothing could survive in that radioactive wasteland. But life always finds a way. Sometimes in forms science can't immediately explain. Animals that once lived in homes, pastures, and backyards suddenly found themselves alone, abandoned, and exposed to a post-apocalyptic landscape. And as frightening as it sounds, the absence of humans opened the door for a wild rebirth. The forest reclaimed what was once hers. Rivers flowed freely again, and among rust and ruins, unexpected creatures began wandering, as if inheriting a new world. And that's where the most curious part begins. Among the survivors, some species didn't just persist, they transformed. Their behavior, their appearance, even their genetic structure shifted. It's as if Chernobyl had become an open-air laboratory, not by choice but by consequence. And among these intriguing cases, one stands above the rest, pulling our attention like a mystery demanding answers. When the human population was evacuated from Chernobyl in a rush, a painful detail was left behind. Hundreds of domesticated dogs were abandoned, unable to understand why. Picture the shock of those animals. Used to affection, food, and safety, suddenly alone in a devastated territory. It's astonishing to think that even in such a hostile environment, they managed to survive. And it wasn't by chance. Survival required them to awaken abilities that had been dormant for generations. They began acting like their ancestors again, tapping into instincts softened by human companionship. Over time, these dogs started forming structured packs, each with leaders, protectors, and defined roles. It's as if nature revived an ancient memory inside them, reminding them that long before they were couch companions, they were hunters, explorers, guardians. Recent studies show their behavior changed. They became more cautious, more strategic, and incredibly resilient. One curious example is how they learn to navigate between contaminated and safer areas, almost as if they'd built a mental map of danger. That's not something learned through ordinary instinct. It's pure adaptation. As the years passed, these dogs became more than survivors. They became a living symbol of nature's resilience. Volunteers and scientists visiting the region report that the dogs are intelligent and wary, yet surprisingly social among themselves. They formed strong bonds inside their packs, creating an almost tribal sense of community. And it was while observing this new wild dynamic that researchers began noticing something even more intriguing. Something that made these animals stand out, not just for their resilience, but for a visual trait so unusual it caught the world's attention. When researchers began studying the Chernobyl dogs more closely, an unbelievable surprise emerged. Some had a visible bluish tint in their fur. Imagine walking through a silent area full of ruins and twisted trees, and suddenly spotting a dog with blue fur, as if it had stepped out of a sci-fi story. But it was real. Many volunteers, scientists, and tourists witnessed the same phenomenon. It wasn't an illusion or lighting or coincidence. This fact quickly drew the attention of the scientific community, raising questions about what could explain such strangeness. After all, dogs don't naturally have this color. Blue fur isn't common even among exotic breeds. So what was Chernobyl doing to these animals? Was it a genetic mutation caused by radiation, or was a substance in the abandoned industrial buildings staining their coats? These questions stirred global curiosity, renewing the world's interest in Chernobyl, not for its past, but for what is still unfolding there right now. As investigations progressed, more reports of blue-tinted dogs appeared, especially near abandoned factories. These factories once produced chemical pigments before the disaster. Some dogs showed stronger shades, others subtler hues, almost as if the color was appearing gradually. This sparked an even more compelling theory. Maybe these dogs weren't just victims of radiation. Maybe they were undergoing adaptation processes we still don't fully understand. When most people think of Chernobyl, they picture nothing more than an abandoned landscape. But the area has turned into a gigantic biological lab that no one intended to create. Radiation can shape life in unpredictable ways. Common species began exhibiting traits that seem straight out of fantastical stories. Pigs with extra limbs, birds with deformed beaks, irregular fish, and frogs with strange colors. It's as if DNA were being shuffled, testing variations that would never appear under normal conditions. And what's most interesting is that these changes don't occur in isolation. They emerge like a chain reaction triggered by extreme environmental factors. Radiation acts like a chaotic editor, altering appearance, behavior, reproductive cycles, even neurological capacity. Some birds, for example, were found with brains 30% smaller. Imagine trying to survive in a hostile environment like that. As mutations accumulate, a troubling pattern emerges. Animals closer to the highly contaminated areas show more striking changes. This pattern shed light on the mystery of the blue dogs, revealing that nothing there happens by chance. While investigating the bluish coloration, scientists realized they were facing something beyond mere visual curiosity. Radiation can affect DNA, altering pigments, proteins, and the expression of genes responsible for color. In Chernobyl, this has been happening for nearly 40 years. Generations of animals have been exposed to small, constant doses of radiation, creating significant genetic pressure. But there was another factor: industrial chemical compounds left behind before the disaster. In abandoned factories near the hot zone, researchers found pigments and metallic residues like copper sulfates capable of staining organic materials. Imagine an animal sleeping on contaminated debris or rolling in soil soaked with those compounds. Over time, the blue tint could build up in its fur. Even more astonishing is that some of these dogs show not only bluish fur, but also genetic signatures different from ordinary dogs. Small mutations have been detected, suggesting that the combination of radiation and chemical environment may be accelerating unexpected evolutionary processes. In the end, looking at the Chernobyl dogs is like seeing a distorted mirror of our own history, a reminder that the consequences of human choices always return. Maybe the greatest lesson of this phenomenon isn't found in the mutations or the blue fur, but in the strength of life itself, always pushing forward even when everything around it collapses. Think about the times you faced something impossible and found unexpected strength. The story of these dogs is exactly that. Survival under impossible conditions. Now, before you go, tell me in the comments which part of this story surprised you the most. Do you believe these dogs are truly evolving? Or do you think something still undisclosed is happening in the region? If this content made you reflect or learn something new, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss more stories like this. There's a lot more coming, and you won't want to miss it.